Hey guys, welcome back to Insomniac Sports. I know it's been a while. A lot of things going down. As everybody knows, COVID really screwed a lot of things over in 2020. Here's to looking for a better 2021. One of those things was my will to do anything outside of work. Because working in the media during a time like this where there's constant political unrest, everybody hates you and is always calling you fake news, and trying to scrape up any type of story you can because nothing's happening because of COVID really wears on you quite a bit. And, at the end of the day, when you come home, you just kind of want to sit around and do nothing because it's your only time to relax. And it doesn't help that you can't go or do anything because of all that's going on. So, I haven't taken any vacation days until just recently when I went home. That's all I did. It was wonderful. It was good to get back home and see some friends and such. So, otherwise, so what is the outlook of Insomniac Sports now? Well, I told you guys last time that we were going to try and do something a little bit different. We were waiting for me to get better camera gear as well as better audio gear and better everything, essentially. And we've kind of done that. I have a really nice camera now. I have an actual, professional microphone that I'm wearing right now. So that's nice. I have access to nice editing software. So that's fantastic as well. This isn't going to be like it used to be in the past where I would do live shows on typically Sunday nights after games or even Monday nights, or even at one point I was doing Tuesday nights because it was after all the games and it just worked. What I'm hoping to do now is more of a YouTube style type of thing where I pre-record these things, edit them and put them together, and then put it out there for you guys to watch. So the hope is to have these videos out there by Saturday, maybe even Friday, somewhere around there, just preferably by the weekend. And I know that kind of doesn't fit what our kind of MO is because this has always been more of a football first type of podcast, but football season's pretty much done. Thankfully, we've been able to get through an entire college football season so far, even though it was very shaky. We're almost through the NFL season, so we're doing well. Baseball is supposed to be starting up on time. NHL starts tonight as I'm recording this. This is Wednesday night. And the NBA's going right now too. So we got things working. And this, the benefits of pre-recording these and putting them out later is I don't necessarily have to have them on a certain day, on a certain time, whenever. I can kind of just go with the flow and work as I am able to, which is great because having a schedule like mine where you don't know what you're doing, tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. compared to the next day at 10 a.m., it could be a totally different thing every time. I don't know. Don't know until I show up most of the time. So this is definitely a huge benefit for me. I'm also going to try and call in some different people, mostly friends of mine, because still making sports contacts. Sports contacts are hard to make. I have a billion other contacts in the news world, but sports ones are the ones that are toss up to get it. So this week, our guest, he's been here before. You guys know him. Most of you love him. We have Noah on the phone. Noah, how you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, good to be back. Lane, thank you for having me back on.
So the first topic we're going to discuss today is I came across this article about what each NFL team needs to look for in this upcoming season. And I like to go through those because, from a viewer standpoint, you see some things on certain teams. And these people that come up with these articles are supposed to be the professional beat writers and stuff. And half the time they do a subpar job. As I've mentioned long ago, I used to go at Rob Domofsky on Twitter because he's the Packers beat writer, and that would be an awesome job to have. But he sucks half the time, so I used to come at him for stuff. But anywho, I like to go through these and give my own opinion, and I'll have Noah's opinion in here as well. So we're going to just go through each team as they're listed in here on this article, and we're going to start off with the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. It has bringing in a premier edge rusher. I would say they technically need a premier pass rusher in general. The little write up here says that they have good pass rush from Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, which I can't deny. But like it says in there, those guys are getting old. And so aside from getting a good edge rush, I would say just a pass rush in general. That would definitely help out in the long run because the Bills are definitely going to be a team to beat in the next couple of years. Excuse me. They're the number 2 seed in this year's playoffs. Josh Allen has looked phenomenal all year. Any other year, he'd probably be the MVP, but Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes put up incredible years as well, beating him out in just a couple stats there. So what they have listed in here is edge rusher AJ Epinesa from Iowa could become a really good pick for them, which I agree. He was really good at Iowa, and I thought he definitely was deserving of a second-round pick. He was a healthy scratch in a couple games this year. He never really got to see the field a whole lot, so I think if the Bills can really take time to develop him into a better NFL-ready pass rusher, you got your edge rush right there. So why not go for more of an outside linebacker or an inside linebacker to do that pass rush? Because you got your D-end, your young, good D-end right there in Epinesa. Why don't you go for somebody on the outside from the linebacker position or maybe even a middle linebacker? That would be my insight on that. Doesn't necessarily have to be a hand-in-the-ground type of guy. Other areas I think they could definitely improve upon. Maybe running back in a later round. Singletary and Moss had pretty good years, but they don't really have that guy at running back. They have Zach Moss, who gets the short yardage, and Singletary, who is more of a third down kind of scat back type of guy. They don't really have like the one go-to type of running back that a lot of teams in the league have. So that could potentially be a thing as well. I'd say their receivers are pretty good. Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley got them quite far this year. And outside of that, they kind of have a little mismatch of a few guys here. John Brown, when he's healthy, is good. So potentially a mid-round wide receiver would be good. Their tight ends are pretty good. Otherwise, I can't think of anything for the Buffalo Bills. Noah, what do you think?
I wouldn't mind just seeing one more awesome receiver with Josh Allen, because I totally agree with the D lineman. Stephon Diggs is awesome, and he proved me wrong. I thought he was going to be a lot worse than he is, and he's balled out, and if they could get him someone better than Cole Beasley as a second option or whatever, that'd be great.
After that, we've got the Miami Dolphins, of which they listed any playmaking offensive weapon. And I would 100% agree with that if you're going to continue on with Tua as your main guy. It looks like they're probably going to let Fitzpatrick walk this year. It's the end of his contract. So if you're going to 100% stick with Tua, you need playmakers. Devontae Parker is a great playmaker for them. So is Mike Gesicki, the tight end. Outside of that, who do they really have? Myles Gaskin came on late in the season. He was phenomenal. If they can keep that kind of production out of him year-round, that would be great. Jordan Howard, they had him this year. I don't know what exactly happened to him. I'm pretty sure he got hurt and was out a lot this year. But, I mean, obviously I'm not paying that much attention to the Dolphins. I probably should have been this year because they did really well for the most part. But, yeah, any type of big playmaker for the Dolphins on offense would be huge in helping out Tua Tagovailoa. Even if they add a big lineman, you got to keep your guy upright and you got to keep him ready to go at all times, keep him healthy. So anything to really bolster that offense could be huge for the Dolphins, because we saw this year their defense is pretty put together. Xavier Howard is one of the best DBs in the entire league. He led the league in interceptions this year, so I think that defense is pretty well set. They just need to get that offense going. And, they had flashes here and there, but Tua, he started strong, would struggle in other games, come back in, and then they started doing this weird start Tua for the beginning of the game and put Fitzpatrick in after so long, and it just Didn't seem to really work out for them. What are your thoughts, Noah?
Or you get Deshaun Watson and run it back.
But what if you don't get Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, then you gotta bring in someone for Tua. And maybe like a little better O-line.
Anybody in particular that you can think of that would be a great playmaker for Tua?
Allen Robinson. If he's available, why would you not take him if you're Tua? That would be so awesome. Have an aggressive receiver. Because those 50-50 balls he's going to chuck up because he likes to do it, like Allen Robinson at least is going to have a chance.
Next we move on to the New England Patriots, and I'm sure a lot of people were excited to see them not make the playoffs for the first time since 2008. I'm sure a lot of people want to say that's in big part to Tom Brady. Of course, it probably was. I mean, it's hard to replace a dude who was sitting in your system for years and years and years, especially when they replace it with Cam Newton coming off of injuries, trying to have a revenge tour in a sense because he had those Under Armour commercials about how it ain't over, I'm back. They have listed in this list at least, improve the receiving group. That's been a huge issue for the Patriots for years now. So, I mean, the last time I recall them having a decent group of wide receivers was probably the Super Bowl against the Falcons when they had Edelman, Hogan, Amendola, Gronkowski. I mean, those guys were decent, but they're not great. Edelman's pretty good, but he's a good slot receiver. You need outside guys, and Amendola and Hogan were not fitting that mold. So last year they picked up the guy from Arizona State, N'Keal Harry. They picked him up. He had a so-so year, but I think he'll get better with time. They had Damiere Byrd, who looked really good this year. I think he could be a great slot guy for them. Aside from those two, I can't really think of anybody on the Patriots who's really worth hanging on to. I'm sure they'll get Edelman back again next year, and that'll definitely help out. But you still got outside needs at wide receiver. The tight end position for them is not a strength right now either. So that could be something to look at. Running back has always been a committee thing for them, it seems. The Patriots, for quite some time, have had a handful of running backs that can, that do multiple things. Most seasons they'll have at least 4 of them. Lately they've been running with Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, and there's one other guy, I can't think of his name right now. But then this year they added Najee Harris? No. Another Alabama running back whose name I can't think of. Either way, doesn't matter. The whole point of that, though, is they have multiple guys that can do multiple things, and they specialize. A lot of them are not downhill runners. That's kind of Sony Michel's supposed to be MO with James White as well as Rex Burkhead being the guys out of the backfield catching the ball. I think the Patriots have a hell of a lot more things they need to work out. They need to figure out who's going to be quarterback number 1. They have options out there. One I heard right out the gate, Carson Wentz leaving Philly to go to New England. I could see it, potential. Aside from that, there's been talk of Jarrett Stidham just getting the vote of confidence and just going for it. I don't think they'll go with that. They could potentially sign Phillip Rivers for a year or 2. People have discussed that. Matthew Stafford has been a big topic of discussion in quarterback movement this coming season. Honestly, I think if Stafford goes to New England, he's going to succeed majorly. He will make the playoffs. I don't know about a Super Bowl, but he will make the playoffs. Stafford is 100% one of those guys that if he was on any other team aside from the Lions and maybe even the Browns, he'd be in the playoffs consistently. Stafford is good. Outside of that, Patriots probably won't be able to draft a top quarterback in this coming draft unless they get lucky and one slides to them. I saw a mock draft yesterday saying that the guy from North Dakota State, Trey Lance, I should know that. I'm right here in North Dakota. Trey Lance. He could potentially go to the Patriots because I think the Patriots are in the late teens in the draft order. I don't recall. I haven't checked lately. But late teens, I believe, is where they're at, and he could potentially slide to them. I just don't know that Trey Lance is a first-round pick. He definitely has all the physical abilities to do things of an NFL quarterback, but he's really only played one season at NDSU. And that's what worries me, because guys coming from that lower FCS level, it's not like they can't play, but the competition level is not necessarily the same. I mean, you're not going out there and playing like an Alabama or an Ohio State, on a consistent basis. So, and that was my big thing with Josh Allen as well, coming out of Wyoming, that the big games that he played in against Power 5 opponents, he didn't look very good in. But he's gone on to the NFL, and he had a rough first year. His second year was a little shaky. Year 3, he's tearing it up. He's MVP quality. So Trey Lance could easily do the same thing, and I'd love to see it. Go ahead, Trey Lance. Go off, my guy. So we'll see how that goes. Noah, your thoughts?
I thought Cam was going to be fine this year, but I was wrong. So I would say get a quarterback, but I think they're obviously going to draft one, but it'll be a couple years. Honestly, I trust Belichick with the defense, so I really don't think I can comment on what he's going to be doing with that, over the next couple years. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. And then basically just get him another quarterback, and I think they're going to be good to go. I think they should, wait and draft Ian Book. I think Ian Book could be another Tom Brady just with Belichick. I don't think he could be that good with anybody else, but I think he'd be a diamond in the rough for the Patriots.
Some people are saying Mac Jones is that guy, though.
Well, are they going to draft one that high?
Maybe.
Because he's going to go first round. I think he is. I don't know if he will. What I'm seeing is he's going first round.
He very well could, and I could see that happening. I think it just depends on where, who really wants him.
The team has to need a quarterback if they're going to draft him in the first round. And Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, and what's the BYU guy? Is it
Zach Wilson?
Yeah, Zach Wilson. If those guys are gone, they're going to panic and they'll take him in the first round.
So last but not least, but definitely kind of least in the AFC East, the New York Jets. They have so much to work on. No, I think you'd agree on that, but at least somebody knows what direction that the Jets should go, and their beat writer said, nail the head coach decision. I think they've had opportunities to do that in the past and just haven't done it. I mean, Adam Gase seemed like a decent option 4 years ago. Todd Bowles, I thought he was getting something going there, and they just didn't give him another chance. I think if they would have given Todd Bowles another year, he might have been able to start getting something rolling. But, I mean, the Jets just need to have a good leader. It seems like their two big targets right now are Eric Bieniemy as well as Robert Saleh. I think either of those guys could be really good head coaches. It's just who's going to be a good head coach for the New York Jets. The Jets have been kind of a laughingstock for the past decade, pretty much since their back-to-back AFC Championship appearances. Anytime after those, it's just been comedy out of the Jets. So, man, is it going to be hard. I think they have plenty of picks to fix lots of issues because they got a ton out of the Jamal Adams trade. So it's just finding a guy who can work with the Jets, sticking with them, and building something there. And build something quickly because it's very obvious that they are not giving you very much time in New York to really get anything done. Noah?
I totally agree. I would talk to Sam Darnold because Sam Darnold said he wants to be there and wants to turn the ship around. So, get someone that works well with him. Because I think, he looks horrible, but he's with Adam Gase, and Adam Gase has only ever made Jay Cutler look good. But, would you blame them if they draft? Okay, I have a feeling they're not going to draft Justin Fields because I think they're going to stick with Sam Darnold and get a new coach and see if they can figure it out.
All right, moving on to the AFC North. Starting off with the Baltimore Ravens, this list says get a number one wide receiver, citing that Marquise Brown is too inconsistent. I'd kind of agree. They have the running backs. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, looked great. Mark Ingram, if they decide to bring him back, there's another guy that can do something for you. Their tight ends are great. Mark Andrews, I don't know how people didn't think this dude was going to be good. I brought it up a few years ago when Mark Andrews was coming out of the draft out of Oklahoma. I said, this guy is a stud tight end. Anybody that picks him up will love him. And he's been phenomenal. You honestly don't even hear about any other tight ends in Baltimore, really, aside from Mark Andrews. Max Williams, I believe, is still their other guy. So it'd be great to get him going. They traded away Hayden Hurst to Atlanta. He had a great time in Atlanta. So, they have the tight end room. They have the running back room. Defense, they're pretty solid. So I don't know that they really need too many upgrades there. Otherwise, Noah, what do you think?
And Trace McSorley's on that team, so anything can happen. You never know. You bring him in. I think he. You want a hot take? I think Lamar Jackson, once he can't throw anymore, everybody figures out he really can't throw, I think Trace McSorley's going to be pretty decent for the Ravens. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah, I would get them a wide receiver and, again, just see what happens.
Just a kid from Briarwood, man.
Right, exactly.
Throw it on a dime. Oh.
Every time I think about the Baltimore Ravens, he's the first player I think about. I don't even think about Lamar Jackson because of that TikTok now.
Oh, Lord. So then we'll move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. They just got their franchise quarterback last year in Joe Burrow. He definitely looked the part. It's just the Bengals are in such a disarray that he got a season-ending injury and can't help that. But you know what? You can't help it now. Get offensive linemen. They need to revamp that line because they have some playmakers. AJ Green, awesome. Joe Mixon, great. You have some of those guys, and they got T. Higgins last year too, who was great too. So they have some of those guys. You got to be able to keep your quarterback up though to be able to get those guys the ball and do something. Ryan Finley looked amazing in that game against the Steelers, but it was a lot of quick stuff, a lot of some deceptive things with motion as well as quick, short things. Get the ball out because if you hang on to the ball too long in that offense, more than 2 seconds, you're probably getting hit. And the Steelers for most of the year were the number one overall defense, and so being able to do that against a team like that shows that you have the ability to do it. It would just be awesome if you could have a better offensive line to be able to do such a thing. Noah.
Yeah, get an O-lineman for Burrow and make sure you cover your butt if A.J. Green gets out of there and they don't franchise tag him for the second time. That's what I would do. Because their defense, wasn't their defense fine? It wasn't great, but it was better than what they thought it was going to be.
Yep.
So, obviously, I don't think you can have enough good defensive linemen, so just keep getting defensive linemen to keep pressure on the quarterback, because if you can get to the quarterback and you got Joe Burrow, you're always going to have a chance.
So next up we have the Cleveland Browns. Kudos to the Browns, for one, to start things off, making the playoffs, having a winning season, knocking off the Steelers, and just beating the ever-living hell out of them for at least over half the game. Good for them. That's what Cleveland really needed. But things that they really need player-wise, they have offense. There's no doubt about that. Baker Mayfield's really turned a corner. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. You got Odell, Jarvis. Offense is clicking. Offense is rolling. They need help defensively. And specifically, I'd say on the back half, their DBs, and I know their safeties, for one. My guy Paul here in Bismarck, Browns fan, guy from Cleveland, He really was just trashing on their safeties all year. And they drafted Grant Delpit, who was great for LSU, but he had an Achilles injury, and so he was out for the season. I think that's going to be a huge help for them going into next year, but it doesn't hurt to get more. You could have a first year, well, basically both two rookie safeties back there as long as they're good, balling out for them. Noah, what do you think?
I would say that's exactly what I would say, because they can't really have any more weapons on offense.
And on to the AFC North champs this year, which could be very debated. Probably should have been the Browns, but hey, can't help it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they got offensive issues. And that's exactly what was said in this article as well, is citing their lack of offense. It's crazy to think a team with Ben Roethlisberger, Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a good receiver, Chase Claypool, who's a good receiver, Deontay Johnson, who's a good receiver, Eric Ebron, Vance McDonald, who are good tight ends, and Benny Snell and James Conner, who are good running backs, can't get their stuff together to be able to put a full season together and do anything in the playoffs. Their defense was great all year. They had a solid front seven. TJ Watt probably going to be the defensive player of the year, as he should be. He had a great year. Their DBs are great. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been on a tear since he got traded to the Steelers. So, what do they really need to fix? Is it coaching issues? Or is it offensive coaching issues, I should say, because Mike Tomlin's a great coach. He'll get it figured out, for sure. Is it play calling issues? Who knows? Is it offensive line issues? Who knows? They seem to have, excuse me, one of the better overall offenses in the entire season, but it seemed like they struggled to move the ball when they needed to move the ball. They seemed to struggle to run the ball when they really needed to run the ball. And every year or every week, it seemed as though they were picking out that if you can stop the short, quick passing game from the Steelers, you're going to be able to stop the Steelers. And so I honestly, I don't know what exactly the issue is. Noah, what do you think?
I don't think Juju's the number one. How many years is he going to miss out on 1,000-yard receiving before we're like, okay, maybe this guy's not it? That's what I think. I think they need to draft another receiver. They've got their 50-50 guy in Claypool, who balled out this season. I told everybody he was going to be super underrated. Turns out he was. And who would you? He already is throwing to Claypool in the end zone more, in the red zone and everything. So I think they need a number one guy. Again, go get Allen Robinson. All these teams that need a receiver, the Bears will mess this up. Go get Allen Robinson.
But what happens when Allen Robinson gets signed, and then who's up?
Franchise tagged? He's going to be mad.
Well, not necessarily if he gets franchise tagged, but we've said 3 teams now at least that need a number one receiving option. What happens if one of them signs him and these other teams still need somebody?
I honestly don't know who's a free agent that's good enough to be. Do you know what receivers are free agents?
Well, like you said, if the Bengals don't franchise tag AJ Green,
yeah, go get him then. Yeah, that's what I would do. Yeah, 100%. Or draft some. There are so many good receivers in the draft every year. Just find your guy.
So Pat McAfee had said,
I love him.
Juju potentially could want to go to a bigger market to expand his personal brand, and then Juju said no. But a lot of people thought maybe him going to the Rams or the Chargers could be the move.
Oh, if he went to the Chargers, that would be interesting. Because he would be obviously a step up, because he could be a number 2, because Keenan Allen would still be their number 1, right?
Of course.
So I think that'd be perfect, and then he could go off because the best corner's not going to be on him. So I think that could really work out, because some of those guys, once you give them a number 1 and they're not the number 1 anymore, they start to go off because they're not on the best defenders. So I think that'd be great, especially with Justin Herbert, who I said was going to be awesome. And I'm so happy things are panning out for him. He should win Rookie of the Year. 31 touchdowns as a rookie. That's awesome.
Going on to the AFC South now, the big hot topic in the AFC South is Houston with Deshaun Watson. He's pissed at the Texans. Who knows what's going to happen there? There's been so many rumors about being traded. Andre Johnson, former great Texans receiver, has basically called out the Texans saying, hey, Deshaun, don't let them pull their BS on you. DeAndre Hopkins has pretty much agreed to that and said, yeah, they're full of it. Don't let them take advantage of you. Get out of there. Don't blame him. I mean, if the culture there is that bad and he can get out and go to a better team, why not? What team that is, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But for now, they need to figure out if they're going to have Deshaun Watson or not. That's going to be their main thing. Their second main thing, are they going to have J.J. Watt or not? That dude has been the absolute electricity in the entire team since he was drafted pretty much. And this year, it was very evident he is upset, he's pissed off, and he's just sick of it. So is he going to be the guy that gets dumped, or not necessarily dumped, but traded and pushed out of Houston? Who knows? That would be horrible. But hey, if you want to come to Green Bay, JJ, come on home, buddy. That would be great. Outside of that, what do the Houston Texans need? I'd say receivers for one, even with Deshaun Watson, if you're going to keep him and figure out what's going on there, he needs somebody to throw the ball to, and he didn't really have a whole lot to throw the ball to this year. He made do with what he had. You also could probably get him some running backs. You got David Johnson, who a few years ago was great, and since then hasn't been great. You know, he had a couple good weeks this year. Outside of that, I mean, what else is really going on in Houston? Not a whole lot. There's other places that they could target in and fix, but I think if you're going to fix anything, fix Deshaun Watson first. Figure out if he's actually going to be on the team. 2, make sure you know what's going on with JJ, because that's going to impact a lot of what goes into that entire franchise, and then go from there. Noah, your thoughts?
I mean, sell the team? Get new GM? I don't know. Liquidate the whole thing, send it to a different city? I have no idea. They don't have an O-line. They have Will Fuller as their number 1, who I love him so much, but he's a number 2, and they trade for horrible contracts. They've completely wasted J.J. Watt's career. They're going to waste Deshaun Watson's career. What I would do is blow the entire thing up, trade Deshaun Watson for the most picks you can get in something, and I would just totally rebuild. And trade J.J. Watt and everything.
Now moving on to Indy, they had a surprisingly great year under first-year quarterback Phillip Rivers. He kind of fit expectations this year. They kind of had several games that they probably could have won, but didn't. One being the playoff game against the Bills. Rivers looked absolutely terrible at the end of the game, especially that final drive of theirs. He's trying to hit these sideline routes. He's throwing it 10 yards over their heads into the kicking net. So I don't know what was going on with him, but aside from those few moments, he looked set in this offense. He looked like he was doing well. And especially in a year as dumb as it was with all the COVID things going on and the inability to actually take a whole lot of in-person physical reps, he looked like it was a system that he could work with. Excuse me. But they need to figure out what's going on after that, because both him and Jacoby Brissett have expiring contracts at the end of this year. So that would leave Jacob Eason, the rookie who didn't play at all this year, as the only guy left. Honestly, it doesn't look like they're going to really work anything out with Jacoby Brissett. I thought maybe they were just going to move forward with him, see how he did for a couple of years, and figure it out from there. Extend him if he does well, or draft somebody else and develop him for a year if not. It looks like he was just a suitable backup who could sometimes throw deeper than Phillip Rivers, maybe? I don't know what some of their weird play calling there was with that. But, I mean, Jacoby Brissett can play. He's a valuable backup for sure. But I think, honestly, if they're going to move on from Brissett, what they need to do is sign Rivers for like another 2 years. Give him 1 more year as the full-time guy. Go ahead, see what happens, because they had a good year. Then in that second year, really start to work in Jacob Eason if you think that's going to be your guy. And I think he has the ability to be so. He has all the physical tools. He just needs playing time. He came in Georgia and was starting it was supposed to be starting in the absence of Jake Fromm, and he was supposed to be the guy in Georgia. Jake Fromm ended up starting over him because of injuries and then what have you. Transferred to Washington and really only played 1 season of college football in general, and he had so-so appearances. Some games were great, some games were okay. He's got the deep ball. He's got the big arm. He's a big dude. He can run. I think he definitely needs to work on a little bit of accuracy for the NFL, but he has the tools.
Yeah, and so who's their number 2 receiver? T.Y. Hilton's 1. Who's their second guy?
I'd say either Zach Pascal or Pittman Jr., but I would say probably Pascal.
Okay, well, I think that, I love the Jonathan Taylor pick because he was very productive. I thought he was, and if you keep Phillip Rivers, you're obviously going to need a run game. Which
they have a great run game with Taylor, Nyheim Hines, and Marlon Mack.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a perfect situation to bring him back, even though I don't think everybody wants to. I don't know why. Is he great? No, but I don't know. I want to see him win a Super Bowl so bad. I would just get him another receiver, that can make big plays, down the field. Honestly, that's really all I can think of for them.
And here's a thought I had: they seem to not know what the hell they're doing with Jacoby Brissett, so let him be a free.
You can trade him and get picks or a receiver. What are you doing?
Well, he's going to be a free agent, so they can't really trade him.
Well, that's an oof.
So if you don't know what you're doing with him, just let him go. He can go be somewhere else and have a better career. Sign Rivers to a 2-year deal. They have Jacob Eason as their third string right now, but he was their quarterback pick in this previous draft. Let Phillip Rivers have another go-around at it this year. In that second year of the contract, really start to work in Eason if you think he's going to be your guy, which I think he could be. He just needs time to develop because he's huge. He's got a huge arm. I think he just needs to figure out the offense and get used to making NFL throws, and he'll be good to go.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea. Because I really think they should bring back Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, Hall of Fame quarterback if he or a shoe-in Hall of Fame if he wins a Super Bowl?
If he gets one, I think yes.
Is he without?
No.
Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are kind of a conundrum because I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL, but they have the number 1 pick, and they can do a lot of things with it. I don't necessarily think they're the worst team in the NFL because their defense showed flashes of being pretty good this year, stopping big-time teams multiple times on, stopping multiple teams on drives that easily could have ended in points, and they'd come up with turnovers or 3 and outs. Offensively, James Robinson is great. Shout out ISU, roll birds, baby. Covered that guy for a couple years in college, so I know what he's about. He's great. Tyler Eifert's a good tight end. Their wide receivers are kind of a toss-up, but they're pretty good for the most part. DJ Chark is good. D.D. Westbrook is pretty good. They have Keelan Cole, who has kind of been back and forth. When he's healthy, he seems good. When he's hurt, he's kind of questionable. Excuse me. So, Jacksonville's not terrible, and I love Gardner Minshew, but honestly, if they don't take Trevor Lawrence, that's a waste of a draft pick there, I think. Because Trevor Lawrence is going to come in and be the guy. That could be their franchise QB for the next 10 years. And, some people think he'll be instantly the best quarterback they've had since Mark Brunell. Potentially. Who knows?
I mean, get Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
And then get it on the line, obviously. Which, I mean, is theirs horrible?
I wouldn't say it's great, but it's not bad.
Like, Glennon survived a whole season?
Well, he survived 3 games.
Oh, he did. When did they pull? Who was their starter then when Minshew wasn't?
It was Jake Luton.
Oh, okay. Well,
he started 4 games, and he had 3 really good games and 1 bad game, and that's when they switched to Glennon.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they probably did that because they were like, oh, crap, if this guy gets it together, he might win some games at the end of the year.
That's possible. Because he was the one that almost beat Green Bay, and then almost beat 3 other teams, or 2 other teams, but then he got absolutely destroyed by the Steelers.
Well, it's the Steelers.
Well, Steelers defense is good.
Well,
so.
They receivers. They got that guy from ISU, James Robinson.
Yeah, the running back. For receivers, they have Keelan Cole, D.D. Westbrook. I'm blanking on their one guy that's pretty decent.
It's older and could help out Trevor Lawrence so much. Because I think he's a seasoned veteran receiver. I think that would be dope for them to get him, but I bet he's going to go to a contender even if he has to take a smaller role.
Who is that? I missed who you said.
Green.
Now looking at the Music City, the Tennessee Titans in Nashville, they had a pretty good year. They were up for the AFC South title. They got to the playoffs. They had a 2,000-yard rusher without a Pro Bowl offensive lineman. But the thing that really spurned them, I think, was their defense, because their offense is starting to come along pretty good with Derrick Henry, obviously. Ryan Tannehill seems to be their guy. A.J. Brown and what's his nuts from Western Michigan that they drafted a few years ago has seemed to be becoming their guys on offense. So the offense looks good. The defense, they don't have a pass rush. This year in the NFL, they were last, I believe, in sacks, or at least towards the bottom. Their defensive pressure was not great. Their secondary is all right, but that front 7 needs work. And it's noted here that they signed and struck out with Jadeveon Clowney and Vic Beasley. Definitely so. Good thing they were both on 1-year deals. If I'm going to bring either of those back for a potential redo, it would be Jadeveon Clowney, because he came back and started out good, got hurt, came back again, and didn't look the same, and then got hurt and didn't play the rest of the year. And so I think if you're going to give anybody another chance, it would be Jadeveon Clowney over Vic Beasley. But there's also the draft where they could address that. Free agency, who knows what they'll go for.
Because their defense completely fell apart, and I don't know. I love Tannehill, and stat-wise, he is top 5 ever since he started starting. But, every time it's a big play, it's just kind of, or a big moment, it's just kind of he's just not enough to get you over it. So if they really want to be serious about winning with this team and Derrick Henry, I mean, you can't just blow it up and not have, your quarterback there next year after you guys have been so good for so long. But I just, do you see them actually winning anything with him? As much as I'm so happy that he found a place, because I knew he was going to be better and he was in Miami.
I think their offense has the potential to be really good. They did have a couple injuries along the offensive line this year that I think held them back a little bit. But I would definitely agree with getting some sort of pass rush, because they were last in the league in sacks. They were towards the bottom of the league in quarterback pressures. So if you're not getting to the other team's quarterback and they're just sitting back there, reading a book and throwing dimes, that's not going to help you at all.
You're right.
Now moving on to the AFC West, the Denver Broncos struggled all season. I don't know what exactly their deal is because I really do believe in Drew Lock. I think he's a good quarterback. I think if they're going to improve anywhere on that team, you first have to support your potential franchise quarterback. And that offensive line didn't necessarily do him too many wonders this year. They have some weapons on that offense, but to be able to use those weapons, you have to have an offensive line to hold them or hold your quarterback up to get those guys the ball. Their defense definitely took a hit with a lot of free agency losses this last season. And so if they want to address the defense, that would not surprise me either because they have a few holes there. Specifically, their secondary that used to be really good is not as great anymore. Von Miller coming back next year will be huge for them, as well as Chubb being back there again. He was out for a decent chunk of this year as well. And so that pass rush is obviously huge for a defense. The one thing that it's showing here on this list is they need to get a good general manager. And I think that could be a huge part of it because John Elway was just kind of going out there drafting and picking up the dudes that he liked. And it didn't necessarily fit the scheme that they were going for. Honestly, and this is kind of a hot take because I'm sure a lot of people hate him, but I think when they moved on from Peyton Manning, if they would have stuck with Brock Osweiler, he was looking real good for them that one Super Bowl year. So he might have been able to keep things rolling for them, but we'll never know because they let him go after having a good year. So will they continue to take quarterbacks that are questionable? Who knows? We'll see.
I don't know. I kind of think they should blow it up too.
I saw potential trade options of Deshaun Watson going to Denver.
Really? Well, that would be insane because if Vic Fangio is your head coach, your defense is going to be fine. That's what I think he's the best D coordinator in the game. But I'm kind of biased. So I would just kind of blow it up. Or if you get Deshaun Watson, don't blow it up. But I thought, remember, I was on your show saying Drew Lock was going to be awesome. And
I agreed. I said the same thing.
Yeah. I guess we were wrong, so...
Well, he has his moments.
Yeah, well, the thing is you absolutely love the guy, too, because of his personality.
Yes.
And it's so hard, but, at the same time, the Broncos just keep swinging and missing on quarterbacks. It's just if your colors are blue and orange, you can't pick quarterbacks. This is what it is. I don't know why. But that's what I know. It sounds like bleak and kind of boring, and maybe they're not really that bad. But I just feel like I don't know. It's a new regime with John Elway being gone. Just blow it up and let's see what happens. Build something new.
I still have faith in Drew Lock. I just think he's not getting the pieces that he needs there in Denver.
That's why I think they should blow it up because I don't think they're going to get them.
I don't think they will either.
That's the only... Yeah, if they can do it and, they can get them... I don't even know. Is their O-line bad? But... Because I did not watch a lot of Denver this year. I'm not going to lie. But I just don't trust them to get it done because... I don't know. The Broncos have been, spinning their wheels ever since that Super Bowl run. And then they're just never as good as they're supposed to be.
Moving on to the number one overall seed in the AFC playoffs, the Kansas City Chiefs. What could the Chiefs really want? Defending Super Bowl champions, number one AFC seed. They obviously seem to be rocking and rolling, and as they should be. I think their biggest issue is going to be keeping the free agents that they need to keep because their cap situation is not great. This list notes that Tyrann Mathieu is probably the biggest one that they need to keep. And, I could agree with that. Their defensive secondary has always been kind of the toss-up the past couple of years with the Chiefs being really good. They have had kind of rotating guys in there the past couple of years. And, keeping that defensive guy who's really going to basically be the quarterback of the defense is huge. And I think Tyrann Mathieu has kind of taken on that role in the Kansas City defense. And, offensively, they have everything they could ever need offensively. And defensively, that's really their only place where they could improve, honestly. But who knows? Noah, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I would just literally do whatever you can to keep everything just the same. I really would. I would just keep everything the same as much as you could and just start drafting defensive backs, and some of them will turn out good.
And now we move on to the Las Vegas Raiders. First time that's been said on here, I believe. I think they definitely just need to figure out a defense. That offense seemed to click this year. They definitely just need to keep things rolling with that. One big question that I've seen a lot of discussion on Twitter about is Marcus Mariota or Derek Carr. Mariota came in the absence of Derek Carr and had a game. That was a good game against the Chargers. And granted, it's against the Chargers, but who cares? A game is a game, and he looked wonderful. Looked like his old self. And, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter saying that they just need to roll with Mariota the next season because he is going to be better than Derek Carr. I've seen some people say they need to trade Mariota while they have value while he has value because Derek Carr is their guy. So, I don't know what they're going to do there, but they should figure that out. And I think it's going to be a win either way because they have good weapons on that offense. Defensively, they fired their defensive coordinator towards the back end of the season. They probably should have done that a lot sooner, but that's where they need to get their stuff together, is figuring out that defensive coach that's going to actually get it going for them.
Get Mitch Trubisky with John Gruden. That's what they need to do. 100%. They get Mitch Trubisky with John Gruden, that offense is going to be insane. With how much he loves to run the ball, that's what they need to do. And they have the receivers now to do it. I would do it.
See, but I put out the point, the fans on Twitter at least don't seem to know which way to go with quarterback. And I thought Marcus Mariota looked really good in that game that he came in for an injured Derek Carr.
So did Nick Foles. He looked pretty good in that first game when he came in.
Well, there's a point.
And people flashes happen because they're not ready for it. I think Marcus Mariota should get another shot. If he's the starting quarterback in Oakland next year, I'd be very happy because I would love to see what he can do with John Gruden too, being a mobile guy. But I'd get Trubisky if I was them.
So who's the new team that's coming up in Oakland then?
The new team coming in Oakland? What are you talking? Texans. Texans should move there and name it something else. That's the deal.
Yeah, because they're in Vegas now, buddy. Vegas Raiders.
Death Star, it's so dope. Do you know how happy they have to be being in Vegas now compared to Oakland?
Oh, I'm sure it's night and day.
And the tax breaks, too. It's just like all the stuff and everything getting out of Oakland. Like, that's just... I couldn't imagine. I bet the players are so happy. And I bet their houses are so much cheaper, too. You can buy more land out there for cheaper, Just like in Texas, everybody freaks out when an NBA player signs a big deal there.
Let's talk about the Chargers. They're missing a head coach right now. They drafted a potential phenom in Justin Herbert, who 100% looked the part. I feel bad for Tyrod Taylor for having that medical whoopsie with the shot that punctured his lung. But, that was probably one of the best things that could have happened for Justin Herbert, is just getting thrown into a game and having a dang good game at it for his first game as well. He proceeded to look pretty good throughout the rest of the season, and it could win him Offensive Rookie of the Year. So what do they need to fix? Well, they need a head coach, for one, and a good coaching staff to go around it. Defensively, I think the Chargers have an excellent defense. They just had a lot of injuries this year that didn't help them in the slightest. Offense, they could easily use offensive linemen, as any team could. They have good running backs, and they have good receivers. They just need to be able to get a coach that can use Justin Herbert to the best of his abilities and get things going as well as get that defense together because they could potentially have a top 10 defense there in LA with the Chargers.
Dude, just get Justin Herbert a defense, and oh my God, you got a Super Bowl chance in a couple years. I'm dead serious. I totally think so. Yeah, get what's-his-face, who we say should go there, get Juju to go there, start drafting defensive guys, and let's see what happens.
That's a good point. I like that.
Not there, and let's go. I think they got a special 8 years if they do this right.
I agree with that. This says hire a head coach and fill out the staff, and I said definitely if you can get a coach that can work with Herbert to be able to get something going. Because their defense is pretty good, and I think if they can keep people healthy...
Well, he was scoring so much. How'd they keep losing?
Well, their defense had a ton of injuries this year.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Joey Bosa, I'm pretty sure, was out most of the year.
Receiver, and let's go. That's what I would do.